to call the April 28th, 2025 regular school board meeting to order with all members present minus Ms. Nations. And we will stand for the pledge of allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Approval of the agenda.
Yep.
Anything that anyone needs to add or change? Amend? I will entertain a motion.
Approve the agenda.
Second. Any more conversation with the agenda? Hearing none, we're going to move on. See, this is, I'm going to say
All those in favor?
all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those-
All those opposed? Motion passes. Consent agenda. Anything you'd like
Yep,
to-
so I would like to point out on our that, hold on a second, we're having an issue with the old recording. Yeah, stay on the call. Sorry. That we have hired a few of our, few new employees for next year. So you can see down there, we hired Kala, Abigail, Jaren, Dane, and Lily to fill some of our special ed positions and our middle school positions as people are moving around. So on behalf of the administration from Central Public Schools, I'd like to welcome some of our new teachers. We did have a couple of resignations late last week. People are just relocating to a different area in Minnesota. So those resignations are up top and we'll be posting those jobs to fill them for next school year.
Tim, question on that.
Yes.
Were those, any of those regular teachers? Or what were the, because you below the new hires, you say what they were, do you know?
Yeah.
That much?
What do you mean regular?
One that, were they science teacher, para?
So the ones below, or the resignations.
Yeah.
So one of them was a para or the A and D were paras and B and C are teachers.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anything else on the consent agenda? I'll move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Motion passes. Acceptance of gifts, A6.
Yeah, I could, yeah, go ahead.
There was $100 accepted from Teresa George for bowling fees. There was $214.60 from Minnesota Biofuels Association for a field trip for Mr. Messick's class. There was $4,606 from Central Boys Basketball Boosters for coaches. $2,000 from Tina Schauer for soccer goals. $200 from NYA West Carver Lions for the 5th grade health unit. $200 for bowling from Illinois Lansing. $5,000 from American Legion Edward Bourne Post 343 for track hurdles. And $1,500 from the city of NYA for an AED. Someone like to make a
Yes.
second? All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Public forum?
Is anyone here for public forum? I don't think anyone filled out a list, okay?
C, informational items, monthly reports, student council.
First, we did like an egg scavenger hunt. Basically, we just hid eggs around the school, and then when kids were out of class during passing time, they were able to look for it and bring back the egg to Miss Hammers and for just a prize of candy. And then we had one golden egg that was hidden with hints that Mr. Larson read out throughout the day.
We also did the tattoo teacher. You basically just buy a fake tattoo at lunchtime that you can put on any teacher that chose to participate. And all those funds would go to restoring Cologne Benton Lake and the Emerald Ash Borer Park in Norwood.
All right, then we also had another blood drive, just around here again, and it was successful. So I was good, and then coming up, we have a mental health day on May 16th. It's something like a lot of the kids look forward to. There's time outside and also inside. Student council help set up, and then also help run bingo and other activities while inside. And then there's also, like, for the seniors last week, there's a couple activities. There's things such as dress up days. There's some chalk on the sidewalk where some seniors go outside. And there's also, like, guess that baby picture is an activity. There's a couple others. Those are the big ones.
Okay, does anyone have any questions of the student council? All right, thank you, guys.
Thanks for coming.
If you want to stay, you're welcome to stay, but most people don't. Yeah.
Thanks, you guys. C2 student representative.
Yeah, lots of people excited for Mental Health Day. That should be fun. And then also, a group of juniors, I think, and freshmen or sophomores are going to Sky Zone that day, and there's lots of excitement for that.
Can you tell a little bit more about that? Like, how did that come to fruition?
So, like, for like a reward for like the MCAs and like trying hard, like preparing, we get to go to Sky Zone, and yeah. And then also people are just like excited for prom, like sports outside, nice weather. I don't know, yeah. The things that come with the end of the school year. All right now.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Superintendent report.
Mr. Larson, if you can pull up the finance report for April, I'd appreciate it. So, no change is good. So our just to remind everyone, the biggest factor for finance in a school district is enrollment. Our enrollment has held steady since December. Again, during our revised budget, we revised our budget to 930 students. Yellow line is the revised budget line. Blue line is the trend line for enrollment for the school year. And every month we do a recap of our 2019 promise to voters in terms of what we did for passing the levy and how we're spending those dollars. And that just kind of shows where we're at right here. A little bit later in the board meeting, I am going to be talking about the legislative session, which has a lot to do with finance. It's a funding year in the state of Minnesota. So I'm just going to pause right here on this, and we're going to be going into a lot more depth with some of the things that are happening down in the Capitol in St. Paul that directly impact Central Public Schools. Any questions? All right, thank you.
Board reports. Does anyone have any reports on any committees? Anyone?
288, we have been having some marathon meetings. But it's great. No, this last month,
It's great.
so they have been on, trying to staff, which has been really hard, especially with special education. And they've been, really looking outside the box and bringing in teachers from other countries to fill these spots. And they're like super, super close to being fully staffed. So they brought all of the international teachers into our meeting and had like a big dinner, and we got to like meet them all, and it was really cool just to see like how many of them there are and how appreciative they are to be here and excited to work with the students.
And they're coming from some from Mexico this year and some from Philippines.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then there's somewhere else too that they're just working on right now, but we don't have anyone yet.
Yep.
But their visas are like pending. But yeah, they've done a lot from the Philippines, and they are also looking at like how can that support the school districts, some of like the larger school districts that have trouble finding special ed teachers, and can he continue doing this and staffing 288 and then backfill the schools from that as need be. So it was pretty cool to see. And they're all obviously very happy that they are almost fully staffed for the first time, and I don't even know when.
3 years probably.
Yeah.
Who knows? Okay, we're gonna move on to discussion items. D1, Raider Baseball Association.
So as Crystal and Matt are coming up, I'm gonna kind of tee this up a little bit. So Crystal Kubi and Matt Yank are going to be talking about the Raider Baseball Association with the board tonight. And we've been in dialogue, the board, the Raider Baseball Association board, and I have been in dialogue about how we can make baseball accessible to as many kids as possible in school, while also improving facilities, while also keeping costs down as much as they can for participants in baseball. And so with that, I'm going to turn it over to Chris.
Crystal here and Matt Yank, we vice president board member, and then also our president Kevin is here. Just kind of a background of how the Raider Baseball Association kind of came about. A few years ago, it was all ran through community ed, and it's just the summer base through a league through Hutchinson. There were changes with administration with school, communication gaps. It was kind of growing bigger and didn't know where it was going. So there was a need. So some of us stepped in to create something more stable for our youth baseball players. That's when we kind of came up with the association. It's just parents, volunteers, and with the school growing, we figured it was a good time to get this to go. Last year, we partnered with community ed and on the field, equipment, uniforms. This year, we are taking it on solely on our own now, but we are still working with community ed as far as scheduling for baseball and softball. We have a collective shared calendar that we all use, so we know who's using it what, and it works wonderfully. Kind of though, our goal is to build a youth program that feeds to the school system, setting players up for long-term success by providing great facilities and doing that through fundraising, hosting tournaments, all that kind of stuff, so we can do improvements to the field without having to spend any of the school's funds. And it looks great, when you drive in, and it's a great looking field, and people want to come here, and it helps the community as well. So we're kind of laying the groundwork for a stronger future for athletes, and just hoping that for everybody to grow and support teams and kids through all levels is what we're starting out with here. So this year actually was our first year of doing this. We held evaluations. We had a record amount of kids that had ever even registered through community ed. I think it was 95 that we had. We ended up fielding 7 teams this year, so we did add a whole nother team to the league, which is great. So we're capping all of our teams off at 12 kids. So, just, easier, all kids get reps, all the things, and then just putting them on teams that are more skill-based. We, again, like I said, participate in a Pro River League. We travel between Rockford, Hutchinson, Annandale, New Ulm, Litchfield.
Volcano.
Silver or Sibley East.
Volcano too.
Yeah, so through all of those, and so, it gets a lot of other towns coming to ours as well, to see, what we have here. And with that, all of the kids that do participate in this are all district students as well. It's no one from other districts, so we all are supporting internally here. Just financially, kind of what we came down to with it going from community ed to us. Community ed didn't have, per se, a budget. It was more like a bucket. So we did have to raise funds as of sorts because it wasn't covering the cost for just league fees, uniforms, and field maintenance by any means. So that was all encompassing, and we had great response from the community as far as asking for donations. And things like that. We ended up only having to raise costs $50 from what it was prior, so it's still trying to keep it lower. And we are trying to add another tournament for everyone, so that's including 2 jerseys, a hat, 3 tournaments for all players, and all equipment is included for all of them, so they can just so kind of what we've had here, and like Tim was saying, we've been communicating in a
kind of a lease agreement, to use the fields, because with the new facilities rental agreement, with being now an association not affiliated with school, we still want to work closely with the school since all the kids are in district here. So with this, we are looking at partnering with the school to just make upgrades to all the fields, and it wouldn't be an expense at the school, it'd be our expense. And just looking at the breakdown of what a field would cost for us to rent, so it would cost about $1,500 a year for practices and games. With that being said, our contribution to the field every year would be numerous things, and we have, sorts of lists and everything, but as far as safety, it'd be fence tubing on top of all the fences, which is approximately $900 a field to do all that. So that would all be raised through all of us, nothing on the school. Foul poles is another almost $2,000 per field to do that. Backstops, just that kind of stuff to upgrade the field. And school would also benefit because they play softball and baseball games on this field as well. So it'd be a shared, it'd just be us contributing and we're not paying a rental facility fee. As of right now, what we're looking at is upgrading the current concession standards there. It was only given one window, and it's really hard to get parent volunteers because they can only see out one side. So in order to do that, we are going to be purchasing, or we have purchased 2 of the windows, and we've been fortunate enough to get people to donate the rest of the material and their time to put in all of these. So it'd be available for all sides.
If we also pull a permit through the city, which they didn't charge us for because we already have what's going on there.
Yep.
We did that just because then that way the parents can watch all the fields, put out the west side, and they can watch both sets of fields. Otherwise, it's kind of hard for us to get any parent in there to watch a field that they can't watch their kid. And again, that's all on us. It's all the cost of us.
And another in the future we're looking at is constructing dugouts, permanent dugouts, very similar to what the softball has down there. Just safety, hosting reasons, all sorts of things. And Matt has worked with local companies too that would donate all of their time and some material to those as well. So that would be just another capital upgrade coming from the association to those fields.
And that may look where it might be, if we raise enough funds where it could be year 2 could be one field, year 4 could be another field, year 6 could be another field. It's costly. It's 15 to 20 grand.
As a board, you're having somebody draw out the plan, so it's just not.
Yep, so once we get the approval, obviously from you guys, everything will be all engineer drawings, everything will be stamped, there'll be a lot of permits for the city for the whole thing. We're not gonna do it on weekends and just do it, as we want.
Yeah, no, okay. So I think I'm gonna jump in. I think that's some of the dialogue that we've had where, what Crystal and Matt are pitching is just something in public that kind of outlasts all of us. I'm usually here 3 years. You all have 4-year terms, unless you're reelected. That way there can be some stability and it gives everyone, it does, there is an out if it's not working for anyone, but, I don't want to jump ahead here, but I've run the numbers from our side in terms of facilities rental, that we would generate in revenue from the district point of view, and just the capital upgrades just far outweigh what the facility fee would be, and the district gets to keep the upgrades.
Right.
They keep the improvement.
You don't get to worry about,
Yeah.
Hiding the $1,500
Yeah.
or whatever it was gonna be a year.
Yeah.
Into something else, whether what we put in the field that stays with the field.
Yeah.
Is
And,
there,
oh, sorry, go ahead.
just, during any construction or improvements that are happening, is there any additional risk or liability that district would be taking on from the insurance side of things? Like how would that?
Nothing that's gonna change the footprint of the fields or the buildings. It's all gonna be per permits, it's all gonna be done the right way.
So dialogue that I've had with Matt is, when I jokingly said, hey, this isn't, I know a guy, stuff, and the baseball association would work with administration, and then we would ensure proper permits get pulled. So what I think you're hinting at, Spencer, is like, let's say there's a workplace injury on the field while we're constructing this. Does that put us as a district in a liability? And the answer would be no. Ensure that proper insurance was taken out to make sure that didn't happen.
Yeah, all of our contractors that are gonna be on site, if and when we do this, they are licensed and insured themselves. They might be doing it at nights and stuff because they're donated, but they're still insured.
And kind of just to that, like insurance part, so we're looking at just what for the facility rental agreement says at this point is for us, like renting the fields. We have the insurance right now just encompassing that part, but we will, the more we grow and keep doing things and hosting tournaments and stuff, we will be upping our insurance for liability, all that stuff. And the insurance company working with this, who the school goes through as well.
And just to point out, that's like catastrophic injury insurance. So if somebody gets hit in the head with a ball, heaven forbid, that way everyone's covered to a certain level.
Who makes the decision for like design?
Okay, well, I think in a perfect world, they would, the baseball association is bringing this to you, or as a board, like, do we approve the concept? So there's going to be an action item. And then the baseball association would work, the district would have final approval of what this looks like. So that way it doesn't, it stays with the flow of what we're trying to do.
Yeah, we'll submit plans, engineer plans to the school board. You guys look them over, see if that's what you want to design, you can change whatever you want to do.
We just want to hear from them to like set precedents. That's the only reason, just because we are a growing
Yes,
district
100%.
and, there could be more down the future. So
And just that, like the football field, the school, the base, they all drive. I mean, colors, all the things, that it's all very cohesive. Yeah. Just kind of on that, we are working right now with what we have down there. I mean, it's great, but the upgrades is the shot class. We're working with them. They are building shelving in there and all the material was donated for that. So we have it figured out between the athletic department and us, who's going to use what shelves. That way everything's organized. All of the chalk and the quick dry will get off the floor, so we won't have to worry about it getting wet. Where equipment is going, just how it's cared for, open and closure procedures, and how they want the fields, and just working together with the school on that too. I mean, I think a lot of that we went over mutual kind of benefits here. It's kind of, contribution would outweigh what you'd be gaining in funds by us just renting it. It looked great for the school, the fields, all of that kind of stuff.
And there will be some years where, let's say we enhance the fields by 4,000, the following year might be 20,000. It all depends on what we have for funds, what we can afford.
So I think the bottom line is I believe that the Baseball Association is trying to leverage the talents, the moms and dads of kids who are playing in the system right now to enhance the experience for all kids at those ball fields. I think it's been pretty much a win-win. It's like our middle school and school ball is on there like right now, and so there might be a week overlap if even, and then we have some agreements of like who maintains and manages, like your job, my job. But again, we are looking for some dialogue with the board if this is in our best interests, and my recommendation is that it is in our best interests.
And one thing I like about it is this doesn't affect the school, it affects our communities, because it's gonna affect the restaurants, the gas stations, the bars, whatever.
Yeah.
As people come in for tournaments. I mean, so it should be, it's not a win-win for the association, the school, and it's also a win-win for the community too, as we're bringing extra funds into the community. Because these tournaments do get quite large.
And are there any other users of the field besides the school, the baseball association, or potentially creating conflict?
So I would say right now, the community ed uses the field for like the T-ball level. And so Crystal alluded to, there's a shared let's just say a shared Google document between, Mr. Stacken, the baseball association and the softball association, so that way they're not clumping on each other. I would say I've had minor dialogue with the softball association. I think one of the questions raised initially to me was, well, you know, is this something that we could partake in? Well, we've made all these upgrades down to the sports complex, down to that field, which that is a city-owned field, and I really don't have, I mean, we as a board or a school district really don't have any say of what happens down on that field. But I would say at the time, that was probably a really good decision for them, because these other fields didn't even exist. You were involved in that, I don't know, was that 2014 probably? I mean, it was a decade ago.
Yeah.
Maybe two.
Yes.
So, sorry. But it's also like school ball. So school ball, both softball and baseball, does happen at those elementary fields. And this, like that's kind of the win for us, is we as the school would get to use that, and our kids would benefit from that during school ball. And then where those fields are generally not used, because we only have a T-ball level team, really. This would keep kids on that field. Like, I mean, I would imagine that people in the community like driving by and see these fields full and kids out there playing. You know, I maybe cherry this a little bit, but I'm guessing people like that. Good question.
Anyone else have any other questions?
The field signage stuff on, just want to open that back up to page 6. And then, well, also on the scheduling, before I forget, thanks for taking that on, because having kids in baseball and showing up in another team there and then trying to work out how you're gonna make that work, because you're both school, you know, it's all booked, and what a nightmare. So that'll be nice, have more opportunities to get signage. What, can you touch on that just for much?
So we had spoken, there were field signs. No, so right now there's just small field signs on there as far as like
1, 2,
1, 2,
3.
and 3. We are getting pricing from a local print shop who is also doing all of our ad banners as to getting bigger signs for all the fields and doubling for both of them as well as concession ones. And then we are pricing a sign there, like an entrance sign or things like that. And actually kind of to piggyback on that, when we were there for 7th grade game, I think last week, there's that sign on the corner with the little roof, I always say.
Yeah.
If, that would be something, I mean, work together, but pointing like, you know, this way, complex this way, school, field house this way, but just, you know, doing.
So that, I want to talk to you about that. So that what you're talking about is a monument sign, and I have, because this sign down here on the 5-way is unfixable at this point in time. I have priced out monument signs. They're a lot more expensive than what you think they are. Like $35,000 each. So it just, this is kind of an on-air production meeting, but this is what we're talking about. It's like their ideas come forward, so how can we work together to get to the end, to get to the means? That wasn't even planned. That worked out pretty well.
And I think, ultimately, you gotta find a name for these fields.
Yes.
I think we can make this a community project, put out to the kids out to a vote.
Mhm.
See what the kids come up with. You know, they can take some pride with trying to name the fields. So bring, you know, the parents.
Something
So
different than the elementary field.
Yeah.
Yes.
Cause then we're playing at elementary school,
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
we get that all the time, we're like, they're just across from the elementary school.
And my other thing is scoreboards on board. Have we talked to Joe Clay? Cause I know he has something, you know.
Well, there is a scoreboard project. Well, and maybe this is what you were trying to get at, Josh, but I mean, there's a lot of things kind of coalescing around here. So there's some advertiser things that are happening, and part of that is going to be in the outfield. I think you know, there's a lot of fencing out there. So I mean, I think there is enough to go around. But those scoreboards are the ones that Mr. Clay came and talked to you about, that he's working on. Those are for the football field.
Yeah.
So we currently, as it is, we do not have scoreboards out there, and there really is not a plan at this point in time. Doesn't mean never, but it just
And when time does come about that, whether it's a line of VFW down the road that would donate the scoreboards, there's no reason we couldn't put a joint advertising on those scoreboards as well. As well as your football and world football.
Is that what you were kind of?
Yep, that's what it is.
That's near them.
Yeah, no, we hope. I mean, it just.
Well, it just dresses up like you said, I mean, for anyone to drive by and, oh, look at that, kids using them.
Yeah.
It's school property, nobody driving by has a clue what association or who it is, they just think there's kids on the field. I mean, that's our whole goal is to. And the more improvements that we can do, it doesn't cost the school anything. It's so nice when somebody comes up and say, how much did that cost us? Flashing zero.
Yeah.
How did you get that done? Well, baseball association.
So, and I think we kind of. We buried the lead a little bit. I mean, and Josh, I need to give you credit, you were part of this, but we moved that ag line out, I don't know, 20 feet, 30 feet, something like that. I don't know.
It went from 0 to 24 feet.
Yeah, and added, plugs for different base paths. So, I mean, 60, 70, 80 foot out there. Like already the Baseball Association has donated, by my estimation, about $30,000 worth of time and material, just upgrading those infields. And
Yeah, we went from a fields that we couldn't use to fields that we were able to use on multiple different levels of softball, baseball, because we spent the time in the other.
and so,
That was before our board was even.
Yes, that was,
and my experience has been, I feel like I should be out there with you guys. I feel like my experience has been, it's been a very good working relationship thus far. And it's something that I would like to see continue. Yes. So there is an action item later on that talks about the MOU and the elementary field specifically. It just is general. It is just general in the agenda. But I think what the Baseball Association is looking for is time is May is kind of a critical time. They have some of these people that are going to donate time and material available in May. And really what and I'll say this again, but really what they're looking for is, A, do we want to enter into a partnership with each other? And B, can we do some enhancements to the concession stand like right now? So that way that those windows that Crystal was talking about and Matt was talking about are available and ready to go for when the Crow River season starts on June 1st, let's say. So I think those are two of the items that would be action items later on in the meeting.
Thanks, you guys.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much.
D2, 2025 end of year parent survey.
Okay, so just to update everyone, if you want to look at that, if you want to look at that document in here, each year we do a parent survey in the spring. Typically it's administered in May, and then I report back to the school board in June. This is a copy of the 2023-2024 parent survey. And we basically desegregate by school. So if you have a child at each school, you would fill out the survey 3 times. And the questions are the same for each school. Basically, I'll read them to you here. I regularly receive feedback from school staff on how well my child is doing. The quality of instruction meets my expectations. The technology my child uses for school meets my family's expectations. And I would recommend Central Public Schools to other families. And previous boards have kept these questions the same, so that way we can disaggregate the data over time and kind of see, did something change at, say, the middle school from year over year, and what could that be? And maybe we can address things specifically by school. That being said, this survey is mainly for you all. And this is part of our report card that comes back to the school board in October. I'm blanking now.
So the big one, all colors.
Yeah, with all the
Yeah.
colors. Oh gosh, oh, this is terrible. I feel bad. Don't look at me on the video. You know what I'm talking about. But anyway, it gets reported publicly then and back. Just so you know, at least this has been the practice for the past few years, is there is an open, you can see this area is for comments that parents may have. Generally, we get quite a few comments. I share those with the board chair. I don't necessarily share those individual comments at the board level because generally speaking, they are very specific to a specific staff member or like it's usually somebody that's had a difficult problem and they want someone to understand that. And I do look at all of them. And then, but if there are general themes, I'll create like 3 big things. There's a theme around, and I'll try to quantify that for you all. Like we had 7 people that talked about like last year there, Josh, if you remember, there was something about the calendar, like, spring break or something like that. And so we asked some follow-up questions of families, but I leave it to you to talk. What do you want on the parent survey? Do you like it the way that it is? Can we give you some feedback in terms of changing it? And then I'll report back to you in June.
Was there something that was added last year? I feel like we added the question, but I think it's different.
I think we took out, because there was the questions about construction.
Yep,
Right?
yeah,
And
we
then
took out
separated
questions.
We separated it by the 3.
Yep, so
schools.
that's exactly the change. So there was a question about the facilities meets my needs and Josh, what you may be thinking of is I added a question around the calendar survey last fall. That's where do you, I think that what that question was is, do you like spring break at the beginning of March, middle of March, or end of March? And that was added to that survey.
That's cool before Labor Day.
Yep, that was added to the calendar
Gotcha.
feedback, not to this one.
Well, it seems like we've gotten really good feedback.
Mhm.
Like, it's not like people are just ignoring it. We're getting really pretty good response.
Hundreds of responses.
Yeah, and so I don't necessarily see a reason to change any of the questions because I personally like to see the data over the years, and if
Yeah.
it's different questions, it's different data. So
What would you say is the percentage, if you had a percentage on what are filled out versus what are not?
So we have about 580 unique families, and we get around 200-ish back. So it's not quite 50%, but I mean, the statistics class that I took at one point in time said if you had like 35% response rate, that's good on a survey. So I don't feel like we've in the past said, oh gosh, our response rate is low.
I think keeping it short and sweet too is probably what helps us get the responses. Yeah.
Usually if I send it out, please take your time to fill out this 4-question survey. People can,
Yeah.
30 seconds. And it's kind of fun because I can see them in real time coming in. And really when I send it out, I'll get 100 in like the first 10 minutes. People just do it and get done.
Cool.
So what I'm hearing is, for right now, this is what you would like to see.
The only other question I would have, is there any, you talked about there's years of certain themes. Is there any themes that have been kind of year over year that you've seen consistently that we can make a model question?
I would say, so I think the question that has the most variation in it is I regularly receive feedback from school staff on how well my child is doing. And I would say the theme, generally speaking, very, very broad brush, is our elementary school receives the highest marks and our high school receives the lowest marks, generally speaking. I would also say from year over year, things have generally gotten better since we started doing this and asking for feedback, and people have seen small changes. I would also say a theme is when I add up all of the, would you recommend Central Public Schools to your family? We regularly hit, like, and when I say an affirmative is a 4 or 5. So people that fill it out and give us a 4 or 5, we are well over 90% of our families recommend. That is one thing. And I I compare, when I report this back to you, I compare and contrast year over year, so you'll be able to see last year versus this year.
So you're school.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else? Okay, cool. I will get it together and I will report back to you in June on the results. Thank you.
D3, 2025 legislative update.
Okay, so I am going to give you some updates from the legislative meeting that I was at just recently, and I'm just going to be really straight, and this isn't good news. This really is not good news at all. And in case for all the people at home, 2 years ago we were. The legislature was thinking of all the ways they could spend an $18 billion surplus, and that has now turned into a $6.2 billion deficit. And that means at the state level, there has to be trimming all over the places. So, Mr. Larson, if you go to the second slide here, please. This kind of outlines 3 plans. So there's a governor's plan, a Senate DFL plan, and a joint DFL GOP plan. These are all set in millions of dollars. So how the legislature works for funding is it's the first year of a biennium. And so all the funding happens in year 1. And then the second year is referred to as the tails, which typically that's more for like policy. So first year they handle funding, second year they handle policy. And the numbers kind of speak for themselves. So I want to give the joint DFL/GOP House a little bit of a break here. At the time that I did this, they had not come to consensus of what their plan was going to be yet, because they are in heavy negotiations because it's a split 67-67 GOP and DFL House. The Walz and Senate DFL plan, Walz is proposing for next year, or for the 26-27 school year, a $240 million cut, and then $445 million the following year. And the DFL's plan is to make the reductions $687 million all in year 2. And one of the, from a school funding standpoint, one of the big wins in the last legislative session for schools was that there was an inflation factor put on the formula, and they are proposing to repeal that inflationary factor, which is not necessarily good for schools, because that, as we know in the last 4 years, like inflation has kind of hit everything. Next slide, please, Mr. Larson. So some of the things that are on the table, and again, the closer we get to May 20th, the more finalized this becomes. But eliminating non-public student aid and transportation. So we do get funds that we act as a third party, that I send right to Zion, right to Emmanuel, and right to St. John's, and we allow busing of those students, of those private school students on our buses, because the families do pay taxes here, and we get some reimbursement. The plan here from the governor is to eliminate all of those. There is some charter school cuts as well. A big one that I've kind of been talking about the last few months is eliminating, it's called a QComp ATTPS. We are an ATTPS, or a QComp district. So our teachers all develop goals with their principal, and based on meeting those goals, they give, for all intents and purposes, like a bonus at the end of the year. So in 2014 or 2013, we joined that plan. We're one of, I think, 150 districts in the state that do that. Well, the governor's plan is to repeal that. And essentially what that means, it's not guaranteed that our teachers get that, but we have a pretty high percentage of teachers that meet their goals, as well they should. That equates to about a $2,700 pay cut for each of our teachers. That's a big deal. Reducing school district special ed transportation. You all know that we are one of the worst cross-subsidy special ed districts in the state. We're the last I checked, we're the 13th worst. Basically, they're saying typically what happens is, if I have to send a student to Chaska for a low incidence program. Say we have a student that's deaf and blind. Well, we don't have deaf and blind programming here. We send them to Southwest Metro that Emily was just talking about, where kids from Prior Lake and Chaska and Shakopee, all that have similar needs, all can have a really good school experience. We typically would get 100% of that reimbursement. I have to float the cash up front to pay the transportation bill, but in a 2-year lag, we as a district get that funding back. Well, the governor is proposing that we would only get 90% of that back. So that just straight off the top is just a hit to the general fund budget. Reducing our school library aid, we get some funds to pay for Miss Street. I think $45,000 to be exact. They want to eliminate that. I'm not exactly sure what telecom equity aid is, but my guess is that's bringing high-speed internet to like the Iron Range, places where it's not there. And the last one is eliminate school district compensatory pilot funds. If this happens, this would be about $120,000 straight out of our budget. So there's just a lot of hits. If you keep going, Mr. Larson, thank you. The Senate DFL plan is to, in addition to some of those things, repealing the inflation formula, the inflation inflator on the formula permanently in the tails, meaning on the second year. Also the non-public aid, modifying the literacy incentive aid, basically saying, hey, we're going to give you, I'm going to try to keep this totally layman's here. Hey, we're going to give you this money, but we're going to tell you exactly how to spend it, which honestly doesn't help us. And then, which this would be a good thing, the LTFM above the line levy expansion, basically that would give you the school board levy authority, where if there is a roofing issue, even though we've kind of redone all of our roofs now, but this would have been really great like 10 years ago, saying, hey, you have levy authority to say, we need that section of roof done, and we're going to levy $3 million and we're going to spread it across taxpayers. That is actually a good thing, because it's not like you're just willy-nilly saying, hey, let's spend $3 million on roofs. Obviously, they would have to need. And then the final thing, which could affect us, is giving the school board authority to renew a capital projects levy. So already it's in law that a school board can, if we pass a levy, like we did in 2019, we passed 2 different levies actually. We passed an excess levy of $640 per pupil, and then we also passed a $350,000 a year tech levy, which is also a capital tech levy, and capital projects levy are the same thing. You can renew one time the $640 per pupil, the school board can. You can't renew the other one. So in 2029, we would have to go out and renew that if we want, or the board would have to make a decision in 2029 whether we're going to renew that. In this case, you could say, well, we're going to renew that for the exact same term for the exact same amount if you want to. I think some people would say that's a really good thing. I think others that don't have a capital projects levy would say, you have now just made it impossible for us to pass a capital projects levy. So, it's that has some double-edged swords. Let's see here. Skip the next slide, go 2 slides. Yep. So I think some of the other pieces, there is some things in question with the repealing of the federal Department of Education. It just leaves a little bit of some unknowns. So with the Department of Ed, there's 3 main funding streams that affect central schools that are just obviously in question, because we don't know what is going to happen with that yet. So we do get federal special ed money. For us, that's about $500,000 each year. Nutrition is the largest one. That's several hundred, $700,000-$800,000 a year from the USDA. And then Title I, we are a Title I district, which is basically we get some money for, depending on our poverty rate, to help pay for intervention teachers. and EL, ELL, second language students. You know, if that money were to be given back to the states, I would hope that the state would then just say, well, whatever your allocation was, you're gonna get that, but there's no guarantee. That's why I'd say it's a question, like, you know, sometimes, very loud interests get listened to in St. Paul, you know what I mean? And we're not as big as some of the other people on the block. So it just, hopefully, it's just in question. So I think that's my wish. But I will keep you updated, as, you know, I think May 19th, or May 20th is when they have to have the, budget passed. And again, that's the hope, is that the budget gets passed. We can see how that affects us, and then I can develop a fiscal year 26 budget for you all to pass by law on June 20, or by June 30th. So we'll see how that ends up going, and just know that things are in flux, and I'm willing, and if I can answer any questions, I'm willing to entertain any questions or comments that you have about this. But a lot of it is in flux. But generally, why I bring this up, what gets talked about is what gets talked about in like the conference committees and things like that. And if this is what's on the table, there's probably not going to be a ton of changes from what's on the table from the different houses and branches of government. And not really any of it is good financially for us.
Thanks for that.
Yep, sorry.
Rainbow.
Yeah. Yeah, no problem.
Do we need to be more conservative with this upcoming budget in preparation for that?
Maybe. That is a great question. So I feel like we've already been conservative. So when you, we are starting to game out a little bit of preliminary budget for fiscal year 26. And like I said last month, we have a net negative 30 students from our senior class to what our anticipated kindergarten is. So that's like $300,000. And the good news is, I just looked at our enrollments for 25, 26. We have 22 enrollments already of kids that aren't even here. We're already filling that in from kids coming from Florida Academy, St. John's, Emmanuel, and Zion. So that feels really good. And when Amy asked me, what are we setting the budget at? I'll tell you, we're going to set the budget at 215 kids, because that is conservative. It's where you really get upside down is when you're thinking that 230 are going to walk through the door and only 200, or I said 915, excuse me, is when you think 930 are going to walk through the door, 910 do. That gets really bad really fast. So to your point, we do need to take a conservative approach. And unfortunately, we have to, we're almost in a position where they give you a year to get set for it, and then you have to respond to that. I don't want to say the sky is falling, but I'm honestly really worried about the 2026 or the second year, 27, 28. That's the second year of the budget is what is really worrisome to me. So it's a great comment and question.
Any other questions? Move on to operational items. E1, elementary ball field upgrades and MOU.
Okay, so if you look at the MOU that's up on the screen behind us and in front of you here, this is basically outlines the proposal that the Baseball Association just talked to you about. Hey, we would enter into a 5-year agreement where we would waive, I'm just going to give you the high points here, where we would waive elementary field usage fees. In return, administration would work with the Baseball Association for them to develop a 5-year plan of capital upgrades. At the 3-year mark, we would enter into dialogue with the association to see if we wanted to extend that. And my recommendation is to A, move forward with this, and B, keep it at 5 years, because 5 years, like I was saying before, outlast all of this. I think if I'm fair in discussing a concern that the Baseball Association has, is they would be concerned that if the superintendent changed, or if the majority of school board changed, like overnight, an agreement could just dissolve. They would like to outlast everyone, and it gives everyone a chance to chime in as new board members or new superintendents or what new administration comes in, like if that, So, but we clearly lay out, whose job it is to chalk the lines, and then we waive the fees, who's getting umpires, who's paying everything, but what it doesn't say is year one, we're going to upgrade this, and this. I would work in tandem with the association about what those upgrades would be. The upgrades wouldn't necessarily be part of it, like the specific upgrades, because like Matt was saying, some of the timeline of when some of the upgrades happen are dependent on some donations, which they have not yet. So, but they're confident, and I'm confident based on their past experience that they will be able to get it, because a lot of the time and material are being provided by moms and dads that are associated with the association.
I struggle to see anything concerning or negative about this. I just feel like this makes really good sense for both groups.
So along that lines, if you go back to last year when we made the rental agreement or the facilities use agreements, the rental fees, one of the models that we looked at was Watertown Mayor, and basically it said, hey, their baseball association, you can use our fields. We're going to waive the fees because you're a 501c3, but you are required to make a $5,000 per year capital improvement. So essentially, and we decided not to go that way, which is fine. It was my recommendation not. And now I think it would just, for this one, we're seeking that sort of arrangement.
Yeah.
Either way, I feel like it's a win for us.
Agreed.
I agree.
Just a couple of notes, if we want to be more specific, so standard operation, is that going to be something just for them to use, which I can be fine with, but that way we don't have a community trained to use their equipment. Is that we have to get more specific?
I don't know if Community Ed has ever used that concession stand.
Yeah, I don't know if they would,
So
for something else. I don't know.
So I think what the intent is similar to the concession stands here. So here the Raider Booster Club runs both of our concession stands up top and down below. I think they're like, hey, we're going to put these upgrades in. This is one mechanism that they're going to fundraise, selling candy bars and pop at these tournaments and these home games. So honestly, from the operational standpoint of the school district, I don't know if I should say it. I really don't want anything to do with concession stands. Like I love that other people are manning it, they're collecting money, and they're turning around and giving it right back to our programs.
I would agree. I'm just thinking more of now, all of a sudden, let's say something goes wrong with the softball field. Now they want to use that stuff, and the concession stand work was done with the baseball association. We have an MOU with them, and now softball comes in, they want to use stuff, and we want to be just to protect ourselves. That this is
Like an outside Stiffens Fest or something.
I'm open to a whole bunch of suggestions, and then if there's a part of this that you want me to look at that I could dialogue with them. I guess I don't necessarily want to have this negotiation with the baseball association sitting right in the corner, but I would also argue like around Stiftons Fest. If let's just say there's a softball tournament up there like that, like somebody has to run that concession stand, and And I guess I'd rather have it be a school entity or an entity related to the school than the Stiftons Fest.
Correct.
And I love Stiftons Fest.
I think what he's saying is, can we spell that out?
Can we spell it out that, so,
Say that
I'm not
it's
understanding.
there.
So you're
Yeah.
saying make it solely
Yeah.
the baseball
It's
association?
there. We
Yeah.
have nothing to do with it.
I would, yes,
That's-
please.
So that there's.
I'm
no
misunderstanding.
question
Okay, I
in the
misunderstood.
future.
Just a clarification that it's not us and it's.
Or like
it's
first right of refusal or something like
Yes.
that.
That's essentially what it says, right?
That's how I read it.
Okay, yep, okay, so I'm getting some head nods from the baseball association in the corner that they'd like that.
Well, but that's for their games. So
Yeah.
that is for their games.
Right, that's how I read it.
It's during games and events.
Yeah. I'm just saying, just to be clear, because if we're all gone, now the next person reads it as,
It's their games.
it's the Raiders.
So maybe I can just add a
First
word,
right of-
any,
And, yeah.
any
and-
game
Just
or
something that-
event.
Yes.
I can very easily add that in. So if somebody eventually, when we get to the point of somebody making a motion about this, when you make a motion, I think somebody needs to say with the edits discussed. You know what I mean?
And then the seating arrangements, just, so the school just maintaining seating areas for spectators, we're not adding anymore, it is what it is. If there's any additional stuff, that would be,
So the actual facility is owned by the school. So when we're saying maintaining, like if something breaks on the bleachers,
oh yeah, okay.
it's like, yep, one could take the approach of, well, they use it 50% of the time, let's charge them. That's not, it's our bleachers, we're gonna have to have bleachers no matter what. If it's part of wear and tear, exactly, I think that's
So even if we add twice the bleachers that are out there, we're still gonna maintain whatever's out there.
exactly,
Yeah, perfect.
exactly.
And the only other thing that ISB was missing is, like Troy alluded to earlier, with the field and the signage and sponsors, is there something that we wanna? So we'll see how that goes with, play and the whole scoreboard, but we don't wanna be locked out of these fields for 5 years and not.
No, so we have had, part of the scoreboard, package, if you will, that Mr. Clay is doing, it does have some signage out there. And, in addition, like I'm trying to, I don't mean to call you out here, but like it's, you guys are gonna put signage on like the 7th Street,
All three fields,
on the
outfield, the whole, all of them.
the whole outfield. We needed to, so they, like, when I emailed you, like, we need to just talk about where there's gonna be, we're gonna dialogue about where the signage goes, because there is a package that we're trying to do for scoreboards that obviously the school district has to
Yeah, that's.
fulfill its.
We wanna have something in here with that, once we figure that out.
I can add something like that. There was a bullet in here around signage, and I just took it out because I knew that there was some.
I would see having something added in there, and then based off of earlier, I know they were on the other slideshow, there was a committee. I think we should have as a school board, we have our community ed committee, we have our policies committee, we should have a facilities maintenance committee or whatever to be a part of. So that way, when something gets brought up, so like the sketch for the dugouts, then we have a committee that can report back to the board with that, and it's colored and just, or whatever it is, maybe it's the lawn care, it's the football field, it's, who knows? Anything outside, we have a bigger outdoor area now to cover, so we should have a committee look at for next month to put on.
So maybe I can put that on the agenda for next month, and
Yeah.
you can discuss it. I mean, as a board, you can create whatever committees you want to create. So that's a good thing. I don't disagree.
Maybe it would be good to see, maybe it's an annual, here's the capital plan, here's what we've accomplished. And then order of magnitude of the investments being made into it so that we can, as a board, as a softball, or as a baseball association, be able to communicate their public as well.
But hey, the baseball association, we've given them $4,500 in rental fees, and they've contributed $70,000 in facilities upgrades. I mean, that's a good story for everyone.
It's easy for us to be able to tell anybody that's, you know, in the community that's wondering, why do they get it for free? Well, they sweat equity into it 10 times more than what. Yeah.
Can we just put them on the schedule like we do with the
Yep.
community ed giving, you know,
So when we do the board, yearly plan
Yeah.
in June,
We'll just put them on there.
we'll add them. See you next year.
so probably, I mean, it would be like a great kickoff
Yeah.
time, so like
May,
maybe in.
April, May.
Or even like around when tryouts are or
Mhm.
something, people starting to think, you know,
Yep.
this is what the baseball association did last year.
Yep.
Hey, we're getting ready to ramp up for this year.
I love it.
And that protects us and the baseball association, because I'm assuming unless the other lifers, you're gonna have new people in your roles. You know, it's rare.
Matt's a lifer.
No, I think it's great.
Any more discussion on this topic? Otherwise, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve,
Second it
with the
With the changes
changes
discussed.
that we have discussed.
And those are the signage and the concession stand. Oh, second by Troy, okay.
Is this a roll call vote?
No.
No, so
Any other discussion?
any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
I got you. It's our first time, it's okay. It's okay. Next one.
Next board meeting is May 19th. It's the third Monday because of Memorial Day at 6 p.m. Entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second,
Aye, Troy.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Come.
All those opposed? Motion passes.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. It's all good. Let me, stop this here.